Welcome back to another episode of the Autonomy Pods. Today I'm joined by fellow autonomy coach Declan. How's it going?
All good, mate. All good. Up bright and early, morning run done, coffee in the bag, good to go.
Sounds like a perfect morning.
Yeah, it's
We
all right.
we were just reflecting on how long we've known each other, and now what 2015 was the fateful year.
Indeed.
Indeed, yeah. I always tell this story to people that who come on at Autonomy, and they get like Declan allocated as a coach. They're like, "Oh yeah, so who are the coaches?" And I was like, "Well, I've been trying to get this guy to work with me for bloody 6 years now. Ever since we worked together in 2015, tried to get him to work with me at every different place I've been to, and it finally got him. So he must be bloody good." I, and I just remember the days and where we were at Nuffield. We were at Nuffield together. For people that don't know, we used to work at Canary Wharf. Morgan Stanley had a group of buildings, and they had their gyms at the bottom, and we were basically just like gym instructors slash the black and green brigade, which is the t-shirt that you used to wear to mope around people and train the
Oh,
CEOs and the corporates that were there, and we basically that's where we met and ended up coming up and moving the next 6 years. I think for those six years from now to then, we probably spent 2 or 3 years together,
mm.
which is pretty cool. So we know each other loads, but it's just dead funny that you see people's growth and you see how far you can come in such a short space of time.
Yeah, it's definitely been although it's only well, it's been 6 years, but it definitely feels like it's been like a decade. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? It feels like it's
both
been a
both
really
aged, haven't we?
yeah, I have for sure. Like I'm definitely approaching 40. Um yeah, no, it's been a really, really full on 6 years and it's mad, like you said, just the to see how much you've grown and how much development has occurred during that period of time from a individual as a coach and also going into running your own business as well and so in the grand scheme of things it's actually been pretty rapid, like from the development and what we were doing or who we thought we were back at Nuffield Health to fast forwarding to 2021 and where we're both at now. Yeah, man, it's been pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think it's often I don't know. People don't have friends that carry them through their career, right? They'll go to one
Mm.
job and then make friends, and then other friends, yada yada. But if you have people that come with you and escalate at the same time, it's often quite comparable, and you can really reflect back because you can see the differences that you've made, the conversations that you were having 5 years ago, the conversations that you're having 2 years ago, the conversations that you're having now, and the way that you're dealing with the same scenarios that came up 6 years ago, because history repeats itself, and you know obese people will be obese people, and having those different thought processes and have those different like methods that we've now accumulated over the 6 years to deliver a better service and just be better. There's a It's really really good to see.
Yeah.
Considering we came from, um, you know, 6 years ago we were doing towel stretches between people's legs. Do you remember that? The PNF stretches were basically, for anyone that's listening, you were required to do some post workout stretching because that's what Nuffield believed that they
Oh,
did.
that's
But unfortunately, you had like the biggest CEOs, so like Calm Kelleher, who's the guy he basically runs Morgan Stanley, or did for a long time. So you get this guy who's the biggest owner of the company, and you'd have to sit between his legs, and he's the most inflexible dude ever, and you're cranking his leg up like this, like going, "Oh, I would be anywhere in the world apart from here right now." And he's not enjoying it as much as you are, because he's like, "Why is this 21-year-old kid trying to stretch out my hamstrings and get me to fucking lick my leg?" Yeah.
but it was that, and then you would have the opposite end of the spectrum where you would get another senior member, but it would be like a female senior member, and she would be like unbelievably mobile. So you'd be doing the kind of classic like leg across the body stretch, or you'd be doing like the leg over head stretch, and like her foot would be by her head, and you'll just be sort of like, I can't actually stretch you anymore, so this is getting a bit awkward. Yeah, that's it. We're done for today. Good job. Good job.
Yeah, go team.
Yeah, I think those days were more. That's why, like, I think we were both on the same page when we worked there. And that's when I knew that I wasn't going to be that kind of guy that was just like, because again, you could have just stayed there, right? Job done. You got that job, it's comfortable, you get an annual salary, you learn whatever they want you to learn, and you stay within their own confined sort of methodology. And it just got to the point where it's just like, well, what's the point of having a bunch of individuals work for a business like this when we're all made to do the same thing? You got people who've got different backgrounds, different degrees, different likes and dislikes, yet you're confining us all to the same script. And that's when I was like, nah, that's not for me. So that's why I knew I wasn't going to be hanging around there for too long.
No, and not to mention there's no daylight.
Oh yeah, the underground life.
Underground life. I mean, to be honest, we were quite accustomed to the underground life in the other places that we went to after that. So maybe it's just a gym thing. We need to get like vitamin D injected.
I mean, it was literally like I remember when I eventually moved to like going self-employed, and it was still underground, but there was a window. All right. I knew at that point I'd made it.
You're like, oh my, and that's the small things. You're like, oh my gosh, I've made it. This is fantastic. I can't believe we got a window in the gym.
Yeah, there was a window in the gym, and there still wasn't a fridge for me to put my food, so that still had to maintain lukewarm in my bag. But there was a Waitrose around the corner, so that was, I was willing to take that.
It's just pros and cons. But anyway, shifting gears, we reflect on that, which is always fun. I think we always like to speak about the olden days. But I wanted to speak about you're currently coming up to doing a marathon, which I only found out about a couple of weeks ago. But you've always had, like, it's ever since I've known you, you've always been a guy that has goals. Like, it's always like you're working towards something, whereas most people do have goals around, but like 65% of the time they're like, some days I have goals, and sometimes it's like, okay, I got this, but then 3 weeks later they're like, I don't know what I'm chasing. But it never occurred to me that you've been like that. You've always been, I'm working towards something, and I'm actually working towards something, and tick it off and complete it, right? So I wanted, and I think it would be very useful to hear your opinion, because a lot of people will struggle with the whole goal setting but then seeing it through. Like, what is it that allows you to formulate a goal and then get excited about it and do it? Like, what is it that you fundamentally do every single time to keep yourself entertained? This fitness thing is supposed to last 50, 20, 30 years, right? Like, these are going to be fundamental things that people are going to have different goals as they go through.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think that's always been the thing, really. Like, I think when I set my first goal of like doing a photo shoot, that came off the back of, I've always been active, always been, into training or exercise as a whole. But I never really took into consideration the nutrition side of things. So then it was like, okay, well, I'm in okay nick now, but imagine if I tightened up on my nutrition, then where could that get me? And then obviously saw that, people were doing things like photo shoots and stuff like that. So then it's just always kind of like trying to scope out, what is possible if you were to, go around ticking all the major variables off. So then off the back of, having done a photo shoot and been like, okay, that wasn't actually too bad, like the process to doing that photo shoot. And, on reflection, I looked okay. But maybe, again, it was always like, maybe I could do better. And then off the back of that, it was like, okay, well, I need to, you need to put yourself in uncomfortable positions, I think it is, because in your head, it's like, well, what's going to be the driving factor to you wanting to look better? And for me at the time, it was putting myself in an uncomfortable position. And the most uncomfortable position you can put yourself in is on a stage, alongside other people who are all essentially looking to get in as best shape as possible. And it's just always been that kind of that goal, really, especially in that stage. Obviously, it was always based around body composition and physique. Like, I was never trying to be an IFBB pro or anything like that. It was just especially tied in, obviously, well, with what we were doing at a time in terms of coaching transformation-based clients, and just having another string to my bow in terms of having gone through the process to the opposite end of to the extreme end of the spectrum. But then, even the goal of gaining muscle mass or adding on size, again, I've always been somebody who's struggled to the classic kind of put on weight. I could consume whatever I wanted to consume, and just wouldn't really ever gain weight. And then but you would see, you'd see a whole pool of other guys talking about the same thing, but you would always know it was possible. But again, you'd have to go to the extreme in order to get yourself there. So it was always a case of trying to prove a point to myself, but also to others around you, that if you want something bad enough, then there are ways around it, and there are ways to make it happen. So whatever goal I set, it was based off, proving not necessarily other people wrong, but just showing them the way in which it can be done. I think that was a really big driving factor. And also, tying into where I'm at now, did I ever think I'd be running a marathon? Absolutely not. I'm the 5K a couple of times a year kind of guy, get bored, hate cardio, go back to my comfort zone, which is, resistance training. But, it was always, it just was a fitting time with lockdown and having a lot of time on my hands. And obviously there wasn't that much availability in terms of what we could do for exercise. And again, it was just like, why not? Like, why can't I do it? If I put the same sort of effort and consistency into getting lean, or to getting stronger, or to building muscle mass into my running, then, and, if I get some guidance or coaching alongside that, then I can do it. And it's not like I want to just do it. I want to do it well. Do you know what I mean? Like, what's the point of setting a goal if it doesn't make you nervous? Because you just, you know what I mean? It doesn't really light a fire. And sometimes you set a goal and you're like, do I have any right to achieve that? Because, most people are just happy to run a marathon, or most people are happy to run a marathon in 4 hours something. But I was like, I know somebody who's run a marathon in sub 3.5 hours. I want to do what they've done. And that's just always the mindset about it. Whether I end up achieving or not is a different matter, but that's always the intention, is to do it and to do it well.
It's very interesting, because I think the very most interesting thing that I don't know if the listener may have picked up the word that you used, but you said, so if you want it bad enough, then you'll do it. But I just needed to know that you said something about, as long as I can do it consistently and show up, then that the rest of it take care of itself. You didn't mention motivation. You didn't mention needing to be accountable for it, or you need to be pushed in the right direction. You mentioned, if I could show up daily for that goal, then I knew that I was going to achieve it.
Yeah, motivation. Yeah, it's weird that motivation's never really come into my mind. Like I said, even over the past 6 to 12 months, when everyone has been struggling with motivation. But again, a part of that for me is just about routine and consistency. And one thing I've always loved about having these goals is they normally tie in really well to to the rest of my life. So my work, the more productive I am with structure around a goal. If I've got this goal right now of running a marathon, I can't do it unless I factor it into my weeks. Do you know what I mean? If you're clocking up 2.5 hours in a run, you can't just hope that that's going to happen in your day. You've got to structure that in. So then if that's structured in, then I've got to structure my work around that. Then I've got to structure my nutrition around my work and my running. And that's what keeps you on the right track, right? It's not waking up and going, hopefully I'm going to feel motivated to run later on today. It's I've got to get up at 5 because I've got to have the run done by 7 o'clock. And if I don't do this run, then I'm going to be 1 week behind my goal date of running the marathon. So having those dates and stuff in the diary is pretty good. Puts a bit of pressure on you. And again, as always, you've got to be somewhat realistic with that time frame. But having an end date, or having a specific time you're working towards, that is your motivation. And like I said, every week you pie something off, or you don't do something, is ultimately you letting yourself down, you not holding yourself to your own standards. And so then when you get to that final day, all you're going to be doing is reflecting on those days where you didn't put the work in or tick the boxes off. And the only person you have to blame is yourself. And that's a horrible feeling, knowing that you could have done it. There's absolutely no reason why you couldn't have done it. And you can't turn around and point at anyone else. And I hate that feeling. So
that's almost like the thing that drives you, because once you set that thing in motion, then you don't want to be that guy you specifically don't want to be that guy that goes, oh, I didn't do what I said I was going to do, or
Yeah,
I look inadequate because I didn't do what I was supposed to do. Whereas, like, let's say for me, I'm a completely different personality type. Like, I'm okay to pass things off. That's fine. like I don't. For me, like, I really have to think intensely and deeply about the goals that I have. Like, they have to come from some spiritual place for me to be like, I really need to do that. And it
yeah,
almost like I've got goals that I need to do as opposed to want to do. The want
yeah,
to do goals never get done.
yeah,
So it's interesting because that it taps into like your personality type, and I think
yeah,
often you got
yeah.
to know thyself, right? You know how to feed yourself. Like, you're telling yourself the right things to kind of get yourself wired up for the task at hand.
Yeah, exactly. And it's always a battle. Like it's never easy. Like I always have these moments where I'm having a word with myself, like, you're better than this, you can do better than this. And like I say, you're always telling the clients to hold themselves to their new standards, or questioning as to whether they really want the goal. And even like the other day, it would like I went out, had a pint. That pint led to multiple pints, rums, and all sorts. And I knew the next morning I had a workout scheduled in with my sister at like 6 o'clock in the morning. And I was just like, again, like, no matter what, you're getting that workout in. You set it in place. It's happening, because if it doesn't happen, then it's just a mindset thing. And it did happen. And don't get me wrong, like later on that day, I was hanging, but I was hanging, but I felt great that, again, with, not that this is optimal, but with poor sleep, having drank the night before, again, it's just that these were the final steps towards this goal. So it's like, again, and had I skipped that workout because I drank, and then I don't hit my time in my marathon, that's all that's going to be shown to me. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I think it is a lot of pressure to put on yourself, but like you said, I think it depends on who you are, and I think I work well under pressure.
Yeah, yeah. I like what you also said before about how it informs the rest of your day. How the training goal then informs your nutrition and maybe the sleep, the routine, the stuff. Have you ever had a period of time where it's been the opposite, it's counterbalance? So like, there's been no goal in place, and then that has changed the way that you eat or the way that you lifestyle or what you do from a work perspective.
Yeah, definitely. Like, don't get me wrong, there's been times where I haven't, or like, I haven't had a goal, but I still have the goals being maintenance. So although people don't perceive maintenance as a goal, that has been in place, like during the periods of not wanting to die or not wanting to, do any other major specific goal. But when I don't have anything in place from a training perspective, or nutrition or anything like that, it does, I don't enjoy it as much. I don't enjoy it, that's for sure. So I'll go into the gym, and even if I have a training program, I might follow it for a couple of weeks, and then I go adrift. And then, especially if, like, again, like I was supposed to do a session, and then I'll pile it off because I'll go out for a night out instead, and things will get moved back. And then because of that, the next day's session will be rubbish. And then, like you said, with work, it just it's not like it goes to pot, but it's definitely not as good as what I would want it to be. There's a lot more procrastination going on. There's a lot more shifting of things because there isn't that structure. So I push things, back to the next day or later on in the evening. Um, so I think for me, yeah, like having goals, no matter how big or small they are, in place, really ties the rest of my life in together. Um, and the times where I haven't had the most I've got from my certain areas of my life has been when I've been had a really solid goal in place. Outside of that, like, I'm not saying like it's been rubbish or negative, but it definitely isn't as good when I don't have a specific goal. Because like I said, it just really helps me to build routine and structure.
Mm. Yeah, we find that as well with the post diet phase of general populations, general pops, journey in fat loss and keeping it off forever. It's often that the need for doing this for other reasons, like outside of just the physical,
Mm.
is really important. Like the reason to eat your bloody vegetables, or the reason to have a routine, or the reason to look after your nutrition 6-7 days a week, that there almost needs to be that higher thing so that you can value the things that can so easily be pushed back or put to drift, or I'll just get to that tomorrow, or I'll eat shit today and it'll be fine for tomorrow. But as
Yeah,
you've said, in your experience, and definitely mine as well, the more that kind of goes and veers off course, the shitter you feel, or the less you can be as good as you could be.
yeah,
And most people end up, that's where the yo-yo dieting starts, because they end up not doing it for a real reason. They'd end up not having a strong enough goal or a strong enough reason to look after their nutrition once they're in shape. And then if you don't go forwards, you're going to go backwards.
yeah. No, definitely. Like I said, it's definitely a struggle point for most, and hence why so many people finish, a diet or a fat loss phase and quickly return back to old ways because they just they lose that structure. Like you said, slowly it kind of unravels itself, where like I said, they miss that training session, or they don't get their steps in, or they don't, they push away certain nutrition habits to go after others. I think that's one thing I've definitely been drilling into clients over the past sort of 6 to 12 months, is just like the importance of a goal, but the importance of like maintenance, and maintenance actually being a specific goal. Like, because when you reflect in that sense, it's like, how many people do you know who have lost weight and kept it off? And you ask that to most of your clients or friends or colleagues or whatever, and the chances are not many. So it's like, how cool would it be for you to be one of the very few who actually loses 10, 20, 25 kilos, and in a year's time you're still that guy? You're not just another, oh yeah, but you put it all back on. You're the guy who actually lost it and maintained it because of your good routine, structure, and habits. So like that, even in myself, gets me quite excited for, what I mean, like a goal, because I'm like, I want to be the standout person. I don't want to be part of, the majority. I want to be that one person who actually manages to, keep my shape, or keep my original goal prolonged for a long-term goal. And I think once clients actually gain the appreciation of that, wow, yeah, you're right, actually that does sound really cool. And I don't know many people who've gone through a diet or a plan and actually kept their weight off. I would love to be the very few, because then that's what attracts attention from other friends and family. They're like, wow, not only did you lose it, but how the hell did you keep it off?
Yeah.
Which, like I said, I think is a pretty sick goal.
Yeah. It's getting to that, because the goal of fat loss is so emotional.
Yeah,
It really comes from it never comes from a happy place. No one looks down at, and looks down at your belly and go, oh, I definitely want to do some change here. Like, I'm really happy to see this here, but I want some more off. You
yeah,
look down and go, what the fuck is that? Or you're like, oh my god, when did that appear? Or holy shit, that t-shirt that I just wore a couple of months ago was not as snug, but now it's like the buttons look like they've had better days.
yeah,
And then that's a really poor emotional place to be in. Well, then when you come to the point of getting in shape, so you lose the 15, 10, 5, 25 kilos, whatever that desired shape is that you want to get into, that takes away that feeling. Then you're like, you've had such an emotional goal that anything outside of that feels nothing. It feels
that's
no
yeah,
goal at all.
yeah. No, that's so true. Like I said, I think no matter what extreme you go to, even when people are going to like a physique prep, or preparing for a photo shoot, or to get super lean, there'll be even stages where they are leaner than they've ever been before, and still being like, I still don't look great, or I need to be better. So this is such strong, like you said, a strong emotional roller coaster, no matter where your starting point is in a fat loss phase, that when you come out of it, yeah, to find a real driving why to hold on to it, that's, yeah, that's where most people probably lose it, because like I said, it's really, really hard to come out something which has been so physically, mentally taxing, and unlikely not only just on you, but especially if you're in relationships, you have family, it's been quite taxing on all of them. So how you go about deciding what's next or what's going to be as potent as that is quite a challenging part.
Yeah, you almost need like and I found this recently with myself, is that if you ask a shit question, you get a shit answer. And like for most people, that I'll come back to why that's important, but like the emotional state of that fat loss goal is going to hit you like a ton of bricks, because you look down and you go, oh shit, what's happened? Or you feel a certain way and you feel uncomfortable. But
Yeah.
when you don't feel maintenance,
No.
you don't feel like, you feel better, but that's not the same as feeling a goal. That's the first ever goal that you've ever felt. It's probably the only goal that you've ever felt outside of maybe some trauma. Maybe like you've gone bankrupt and you're like, I feel broke.
Yeah.
And that's where people then go and be business owners and entrepreneurs, and that drives them for financial stability. But there's like finances and then fat. That's the two probably things. I can't think of anything else that relates in that same manner, but you just don't feel maintenance. So what you kind of have to do is, for those that are like me, emotionally detached most of the time, which is fine, is that in when you write in a journal, you have to like really plug into it. So it's like, why is maintenance important to me? Okay, well, it's important to me because I get to hold my body weight. I stay confident. I stay in good shape. I stay healthy. I feel great. I got better sleep. And it's like, what's the cost of me not being at maintenance? It's like, okay, well, I end up being shit again. I end up wearing extra large t-shirts into the smalls. I don't feel as confident with my top off. I feel, bloated without it. I get poor sleep or digestion, whatever. And you start counterbalancing these reasons for then creating this emotional goal. But I think that a lot of people are, like myself, detached away from that emotional barrier that actually needs to happen. You
Yeah.
need that emotional connection, because, like I said, you just don't feel maintenance. You feel fat loss. So therefore, you have to go and feel this goal that you want. Because, like you said, you're feeling what you spoke about is not wanting to be the guy that is saying that he's going to do something and not do it. That's a feeling.
Yeah.
You're moving away from a feeling, which is then chasing new goals. Whereas most people are so detached that they don't actually have anything to harbor onto.
Yeah. No, definitely. Like I said, for me, I think that is the case. It's more like I put in my head that I'm letting, like, I put in my head that everyone cares. And although I don't care what other people think, I still, like, because yeah, like you said, I just don't want to be that guy and I've done that in other areas of my life, talk the talk and said, oh yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And then, like, months on later, I don't end up doing it. And then there was like a changing point as to when I just didn't want to be that person in any area of my life, let alone my own fitness goals. So it's like when clients come out of this position where they've, like I said, been in a bit of a, because some people are going through this process for for a year or even a couple of years, when they're going through like a proper prolonged fat loss phase and dropping a significant amount of weight, that when they come out of it, I think that's a really good thing to do, is like I said, to actually write down why you want to hold this position that you're in right now. Like how much has you going through this journey added to your life? Like what has it added in? And keep repeating that to yourself on a daily, weekly basis to reconfirm why you're making the effort to be who you want to be today and not revert back to who you were. Because like I said, that's a greater emotional attachment, instead of going, I want to hold 80 kilos because I don't want to be 110 kilos. You have to dig deeper than that, because it's just, because what happens, like they'll say that and it goes 83. And then they're like, oh, okay, 83, that's right. When I first started dieting, I lost like 2 kilos in a week, so it's fine. 85. I don't actually feel too bad at 85. 90. Bloody hell, 90, 95. And then before you know it, boom. Like, do you know what I mean? You're back to that point in time, because you just don't have that strong enough why. But I really like that, actually properly putting pen on paper and reassuring yourself as to why you're doing it. That's good.
Yeah. There is there's that journey that people go on to find that this part is really important, and it's unfortunately through failure of completely gaining all the weight. Like the reason why probably autonomy is doing so well at the moment in time, unfortunately, is because of how many people have failed attempt at dieting. No, sorry, failed attempt at maintenance after dieting, that they now think it's important because they're so emotionally fucked from what happened when they didn't value it.
Yeah,
So, you know, they went through that process as you mentioned, where it's like, yeah, I got to my goal, but yeah, okay, cool, 2 kilos extra, no worries. 3 kilos extra, no worries. Yeah, cool, I'm probably building some muscle. Yeah, 5 kilos extra, no worries. Yeah, cool. Tie a t-shirt, just buy a new size. It's cool. And then
yeah,
by the time they get to that 15, 20 kilo marker, they hit that aha moment again, the holy shit, I'm fat moment again. And then they go, they were right. They were
yeah,
right to push the longer term, the reverse diet, the maintenance side. It was important. And that emotional trigger when you look down at the way that you look and then you go, shit, that's important. That's that emotional attachment that we spoke about. But unfortunately, we're actually trying to get people to do it without gaining
have
20
to,
kilos back. Yeah.
yeah,
And saving time. Like you should be able to go through this process in like 9 months and be able to get in shape and then be able to stay in shape long term. Hunky
yeah,
dory.
exactly. I think like, when I think sometimes people don't often see the value in it because it's just not explained. It's just not explained very well. And it's not explained in the sense of like, who you are and what your habits are at X amount of weight is very different to who you're going to be in, let's say, 6 months time. So not only do we obviously try to install variety and how to deal with social situations, stressful situations during that period of time, but now we're going to really double down on that because those are going to be the biggest hurdles that you're going to have to overcome. And like I said, most people will go through a fat loss phase or plan or invest in a plan or a coach or whatever, and just assume that once it's lost, it's gone. It's gone forever. And you've only been ingraining those habits for 3 months. Prior to that, you'd been gaining weight for 3 years. So, when you actually think about it logically, it doesn't really make sense as to what would give you the right to keep, that weight off after just only 3 months worth of effort and consistency. It doesn't really add up. Like, sure, you can lose it, but to give you the tools to actually keep that off, it doesn't add up.
Yep. The same way as like dieting is a skill that you practice, and people forget that they've had about 10 to 15 years, most people, of dieting on and off, which means
Mm,
that at some way, shape, or form, you're going to be better than if you didn't have tried. So when you finally get in shape, you're like, oh, yeah, it must have been that 12-week plan. But it's like, actually, well, you've had 10 to 15 years of preparation for that moment that you actually then stuck to your plan. Whereas when you're looking at maintenance, it's like, when have you ever practiced maintenance?
yeah,
And then now you're looking at 15 years worth of ratios completely bowling you over because you're like, oh, I just did that in 12 weeks, it's going to be fine. It's like, no, you did that in 10, 15 years because you've been trying ever since you were 18, or ever since that you saw girls in school, you were trying to get in shape, and or like you're trying to impress other people. And at that point you've been trialing and really yo-yoing all the way through. That was 15 years worth of prep to get you in shape. Why would you not consider, or maybe this is the aha moment, but why have you not considered that you're probably going to need at least 6 months of practice of maintenance to be able to say, oh, I think I might have a little bit of handle on this.
yeah,
Might have.
yeah. No, exactly. And like, I think again, even from talking to clients over this last week, like the hard part is that you're always going to be comparing yourself to your extremes. Like when you go to your leanest point during a fat loss phase, when you're coming back out of it and you're going towards maintaining, you're going to look like not at your peak. Do you know what I mean? Like you're gonna look a bit softer, you're gonna have a bit more body fat, and that's just again acceptance and part of the package. It's just like when people see guys who are, or guys or girls who are like photo shoot ready or competition ready, and they're like, oh man, it looks cool, but it's just too extreme. Like I wouldn't want to look like that. But it's like they don't. Do you know what I mean? They don't look like that year round. They don't look like that in 2 days from now. It's just that one moment in time they've hit that peak and then they come back out. Just the same as you will hit that peak and then we bring you back out. But it's really difficult to, accept the fact that you're not gonna look peak condition all year round, especially when we look at who you are as an individual and your lifestyle. You're not a front cover model. That isn't what you're getting paid for. You're a dad, you're a mum. Do you know what I mean? You have this crazy lifestyle with your kids and your businesses and this, that, and the other. Therefore, your body will reflect your new habits for sure, but it's also got to reflect the fact that you are who you are, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think when people realize they can't be peak or optimal all the time, then it's sort of like, well, what's the point of me having that? You know what I mean? What's the point of me going through this fat loss journey?
That's very interesting. So why do I want to just be a little bit less fat when I could be shredded all year round?
Yeah, exactly. Like it's and I think so. It's more common in guys because of the unrealistic expectations of what they see on social media, where they got these dudes who are jacked year round, and it's like, so in their head they're like, okay, so I'm going to be 80 kilos lean or 90 kilos lean, and it's like, who do you know who's 90 kilos lean? Who do you know who's even 80 kilos lean? Nobody. And and the same even applies for women. It's like, I want to get really, really lean. It's like, okay, cool, but you do realize that will probably equate to sub 60, 50, sub 50 kilos.
Yeah.
And and in their mindset, it's like, well, I wasn't that, like I weighed that much when I was 16 years old. So yeah, well, you haven't put any muscle on since you were 16 years old. Do you know what I mean? Like that's where your shape comes from, is from your like lean muscle tone. And the same with guys. It's like, dude, you've been on and off in the gym like over the past 6 years. So cumulatively, you've probably gone to the gym and done half-assed for a year. Yet you expect to have just miraculously gained like 15 kilos of muscle mass across the last 6 years. You've got to be mad. It doesn't work out like that. So like when you get to that point in time when you start to realize, oh man, like I'm 10 kilos less or I'm 15 kilos less and I'm still not ripped. Like, sod this, like I'm not going to, even though it has no relationship to anything, but I'm not going to that low on the scales. I'm off. You know what I mean? I'd rather wear a slightly bigger t-shirt and have more body fat, and go and then go back on a bulk and put on more muscle. Okay, good luck with that. Brutal, but
yeah,
it's true.
I think having those expectations, but also the realistic rates of where you can get to is really important. I mean, the one that I'm using at the moment in time with people and their beliefs, which is all the same thing, is like, what happened factually last week, or what was the factual information? Like you said, who do you know that's 80 kilos? Not who do you think you know based on Instagram. Who do you actually know? Because if you take into consideration the guys on Instagram, or the girls on Instagram, firstly, most of the females on there don't have menstrual cycles, which is because they choose to be leaner than their subset of physiology. That's just totally absolutely normal to see. And then you realize that you need to be 40 kilos to do that. Also, they've had 20 years of training, or they've had implants or butt done, or boobs done, or lips done, or all of it done at the same time at liposuction. And you're like, oh, well, why can't I have the proportions like that? It's like, well, who do you factually know? Factually, like you're looking at your friends and your close circle, or maybe even your circle, maybe who you went to school with. Who's got a rig like that?
Yeah.
In your high school back in the day? No one.
Exactly. It's like, how can you, and that's when you've got to be very careful, because I remember a place we used to work at, the goal was like, who do you want to look like? That's a bad place to start. Do you know what I mean? That's a bad place to start. I want to look like Brad Pitt. I want to look like, The Rock. It's like, that's no, that's not, you know what I mean? That's not a good place to start. You're never going to look like a jacked up 260-pound Dwayne The Rock Johnson. It's just not happening. And like you said, it's just like, don't get me wrong, like for a lot of these people, like you said, just said then, 10, 20 years worth of consistent training experience, first and foremost, backed up by their specific genetics, and then enhanced quite often by, performance enhancement drugs. Like that's a whole concoction that you're nowhere near.
And it's a
You
really
are,
good formula.
you are your genetics plus your half-assed year of training and 0 performance enhancement drugs. That's not quite as potent.
Yeah, not the chicken breast is not the drug.
Yeah, exactly. I don't care how big your tub of whey protein is, mate. I remember one guy used to train back at Morgan Stanley, and just kind of like was completely like tunnel vision, ignoring all the other thing I was talking about. And he come back to me the next day and he's like, oh, like I just brought this massive 5-kilo tub of protein from My Protein. I was like, cool. Like, what do you expect that to be doing to you over the coming like weeks and months? So I don't care, if it's, advertised as the most potent whey protein in the world. It's irrelevant. Like, it's what we're going to be doing consistently over the coming weeks, months, and years, irrelevant as to whether you're taking this whey protein or not. But unfortunately, in this day and age, people don't like to hear me talk either, because it's just like, oh, so boring. Like, you always talk about the long-term gain, talk about consistency, you talk about, like accepting who you are and, putting the work in, and things take time. Like, nah, I don't want to hear that. Like, I want what he has or what she has. And that's why you end up falling short all the time, which has got to be pretty demoralizing to set yourself to those standards and never reach them.
Yeah, and it's totally in and spinning full circle. It's totally capable of being achieved with the right goal.
Mm. Yeah, and it's just, and it's all, again, it always comes back down to you. Like, what are you capable of? Like, what do you want your body to look like? What do you want your body to feel like? How do you, like I said, how do you want to feel running up a set of stairs? How do you want to feel in your suit, this weekend or whatever it may be? Not, I wonder if I could get shoulders like him, or I wonder if I trained I could get legs like her, or I would love to have that midsection like him or what she does. Yeah. It's just such a poor way to think, and ultimately, it, again, like as we discussed about your why and your goals, it's not going to be potent enough for you to do that. And I think that the sooner you start kind of setting expectations and standards based off of who you are, not only will the journey become a lot more enjoyable, but you'll actually start achieving those goals.
Yeah.
Which in return keeps you motivated and keeps you enjoying the journey, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. And that is a one way to finish it. All full circle. Anyway, well, thank you for listening, guys. I really appreciate it. I'm sure this won't be the last time Declan is going to be on, because we like to chat shit anyway, and obviously give you valuable information on a week-to-week basis. So thank you very much, and chat to you soon.